Before we see white smoke curling from the chimney. And at the end of the process, who's most likely to be elected the next Pope?
Well, joining us are Monsignor Andrew Failey, a former General Secretary to the Catholic Bishops' Conference, and Fiona O'Reilly from Catholic Voices, which aims to put the Church's case in the public domain. And
live in Rome is the Guardian and Observer's Southern Europe editor, John Hooper.
Well, he was
there. No, he was there.
Hopefully
we'll speak to him later.
Monsignor Failey, let's start with you first. I mean, all eyes are on Rome today and perhaps the next few days. How exciting a time is this for the Catholic Church?
It's incredibly exciting for all of us. I mean, I use the word incredibly deliberately because to be in a position of this very fluid time as the cardinals are now gathering for this final stage of deliberation and prayer is a hugely important time for all Catholics. And I do really want to emphasise the word prayer, because the whole process of the election is not like Parliament or government or something like that in world terms. It is within the context of deep prayer and reflection that the cardinals are gathering to carry forward this particularly hugely important decision, not just for the Catholic Church, but for the whole world.
That's what I was going to ask you, actually, because how much of it is to do with church ritual and guidance from God, and how much of it is a democratic process? Is there much discussion at all amongst the cardinals?
Well, the cardinals have spent the past few days in many hours of deep, careful discussion, not particularly about which candidate should be Pope, but about the main central issues that they, as the leaders of the Church from their own countries, recognise to be the really serious issues for the Catholic Church, taking the gospel forward into the future, and that is what they're focusing on.
Well, let's go now to John Hooper outside St. Peter's there. John Hooper, it's been made very clear that, in a sense, the task for the new Pope is to sort out a lot of the problems that were too much for Benedict XVI, and yet you're reporting that the cardinals don't really have the information at their fingertips to make that decision.
That's right. There has been a report compiled originally to look for the source of the leaker of the documents which so embarrassed the papacy last year, but that report has apparently uncovered a great deal else about goings-on in the Vatican. There have been press reports even of the discovery of a gay sex ring inside the Vatican. But when the cardinals assembled here to choose the next Pope asked about that report and asked to see it, they were apparently told that no, it's been locked up and will wait for Benedict's successor.
So that would seem to make the process what potentially they could end up electing as Pope one of the people criticised in the report.
Well, that is one of the dangers, I think, that they face, which is that somebody who maybe quite wrongly has been accused of something in this report could be the person who, in a few days' time, walks out onto that celebrated balcony above St. Peter's and is the next Pope. That could cause all sorts of problems of the kind that we've already seen under Benedict's turbulent papacy.
And do stay with us, John, but Fiona O'Reilly, I mean, it does seem to me that there does seem to be quite a lot of unhappiness in congregations in Europe and America about the direction of the Church, and will I be right in saying that what you'd hope is that a Pope will be chosen who can deal with that?
I think Catholics around the world are keen to see three things. They're keen to see a Pope who can come in and get a firm grip on the clerical sex abuse crisis, deal with that and sort out the curia, and that's going to require an awful lot of hard work. They're also keen to see someone who can come in and who can really bring a global vision to the role, who can look at all the different challenges in the Northern Hemisphere, which is post-Christian and secular, and the Southern Hemisphere and East and West, which are exploding and have all sorts of social issues. But more than anything else, they want a man who is a missionary, who is an effective communicator, who can actually communicate the gospel truths in ways that are clear, accessible and relevant to the challenges we all face today, because the Church has got a lot to say. It's not done a great job in making its voice heard there.
Historically, popes in recent times have come from Europe. I mean, there's a lot of call now for a modern pope, a black pope, someone from the Africas. I mean, that's where Catholicism is thriving. I mean, if you look at some of the statistics, in the 8 years of Benedict's papacy alone, the number of Catholics in Africa grew by 21% and the number of priests by 16%. Protestants. Is there a big call among the Catholic community to see a black pope?
I think the call is for the man who's got the right task for the job. People are not concerned with what passport he carries. They're concerned with, is this a man of holiness and personal integrity? They're concerned with, does he have the stamina that you need for a job of this scale?
What passport does the Pope carry? It must be a Vatican passport.
Vatican one at the end, but what will he start out with? Let's put it that way. But more than anything, Catholics want a man who has got a heart for God, who's got a heart for the people, and who has a heart for the world, because this job spec goes far greater than the 1.2 billion Catholics, because when the Pope speaks, people may disagree, but they do listen, and it helps the conversation on topics that are going to affect all of us.
What's your favourite? What qualities would you like to see in the next Pope?
I think Cardinal Sodano this morning in his sermon during the Mass for the election of the next Pope in St. Peter's put it very well. He talked about the mission of mercy. I think the next Pope must be a man of mercy, of outreach to the poor, of those who we all know so desperately need the support that they can be given by the Church. And I think that would be a prime purpose for the new Pope to be focused on, as well as Fiona says, the internal need to correct, to clarify administration within the Church itself.
John Hooper, what names are occurring in the sort of anti-post speculation now in Rome? Is it possible at all to narrow down this race, do you think?
I'm sorry, I'm not catching that question.
No, I was just wondering if talking to the cardinals and others in the Church before the conclave begins, whether any names are emerging, if you like, people that we could call favourites perhaps for this job.
I'm sorry that the sound has really gone to Rome. We have a big storm here breaking over St. Peter's, and that's possibly the reason why I'm losing you.
OK, well, if we get that sorted out, we'll come back to you. But thank you for being with us.
A storm in Rome, read into that what you will.
Yeah, Fiona, right. I mean, have you got any names?
I haven't, but I have got a huge amount of excitement, because all the major candidates who have been named have got the enthusiasm and the skills for the job, but they've also got a heart for the laity to have a much bigger role, to get the big issues sorted out and to make a difference.
I mean, we're hearing it could be anyone who's been baptised a Catholic, so it could be Bono, it could be Tony Blair or whatever.
Have you told them?
Well, is there a need, do you think, to go outside the cardinals, who are, you know, quite elderly gentlemen mostly?
To be honest, when, you know, in our own lives we see it. When you've got a problem, you bring in someone who knows something about it to get it fixed. Bringing in an outsider with no familiarity of the internal workings of the Vatican or the Church doesn't feel like it'd set any of us up for success.
Do you think there's any need to look wider than the 115 cardinals?
No, I really don't think there is any need to look wider. The wisdom, the experience of those men, you could never accuse the Catholic Church of ageism, is what the central need is, and I think that is where, for me, the focus needs to be.
And how long do you think we're going to have to wait? We're obviously going to be in live Rome until that white smoke appears, but you know, historically it has taken weeks, months. There have been some cardinals who have died while the whole process is taking place.
It may take weeks, it may take months. I really don't know. It's in the hands of the Holy Spirit.
I've been reading that they want to get it all wrapped before Holy Week. Is that,
that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense, yes, because the cardinals want to get back to their own particular churches.
So that would mean not more than a week, really?
Yes, I mean, it could be very good to have the new Pope inaugurated in a celebration of Mass on, say, the Feast of St. Joseph, which is the 19th of March.
Just give us an idea of what will be happening in there right now, because we hear of them being in padded rooms so nobody can eavesdrop. They're not allowed their mobile phones. It's all very quiet and contemplative.
I think we're actually seeing the media positions as well there. That sort of grey bank there is where the cameras are.
That's where everybody's waiting. But what will the cardinals be going through at the moment?
I think they'll be going through a very important period of prayerful reflection on their own inadequacy, on their own weakness, on their own need for God's grace to move them further into this process towards the appointment, the choosing of the next successor of St. Peter.
OK, well, see you, Andrew Faley and Fiona O'Reilly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And on Sky News for iPad, you can see our 3D interactive graphic, which takes you inside the Sistine Chapel and explains the process of electing the next Pope. And if you're a Sky customer, access to that app is free with your Sky ID.
This is Sky News coming up after the break.
Yes! 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 Yes!
Why all but 3 people are cheering in the Falkland Islands today.